Greetings. My name is Michael Miller. This is a Michael Miller trademark training video out to you because you're watching. Thank you and welcome. It's meant for Michael Miller Pilates licensed affiliates, the Core New Core, and anyone interested in surviving and thriving as a Pilates instructor. Just one topic today, and not a very broad one really. I just want to share with you a type of movement transition that I call a translation. And that's because it translates from going in one direction to going in a different direction, because you reach the limit of the direction you're trying to go in. Specifically, my only two examples today, the two big examples that I wanted to comment on, are the coordination on the reformer and the swan on the ladder barrel, or the ball, but not the mat. It's different on the mat. In the reformer, on the reformer, in coordination. The carriage is at rest, so this is my world, the MMP world, or my experience, my point of view. So I'm not trying to defend anything other than my effort at trying to make a clear point of view. So if I fail at that, please let me know. Or not, as the case may be, I don't know. Coordination. Carriage is at ease. Knees are bent. Whether they're further than 90 or not, I don't care. I like the hands, though, to be bent at 90 and up against the tension, but not in it. Okay? So just like the carriage is at rest, so too is the potential tension coming from the springs, but you're not loose to where you have to move through looseness and then encounter the spring like a big wall or a big difference, but that your position is up against the spring tension but not in it. Okay? So the inhale takes you out and your arms go out to a hundred's length, right? Like hundreds, just like hundreds. And same energy, same line, everything through the arms. And the length grows out through the legs, and of course within MMP it's not locked knees and pointed toes that it ends up as, but it's soft knees and end points of tension at metatarsals. But whether you do it the classical way or the neoclassical way, it's the lengthening of the leg that reaches a limit, and the translation that occurs is when the legs move from going out to opening up. Okay? Like in coming back in, you reach out, you come back in, you keep coming back in, you keep coming back in until the translation is away from that towards center. Okay. If we are trying to lengthen our body, and we can do that through core new tension and the lengthening that gives us, and the integrity of structure that gives us, when you go out in the coordination, and I assume with endpoints at metatarsals, that there is another point at which that can only go so far. Whether it's your toes or metatarsals, doesn't much matter, but the end point of energy within MMP and core new tension is at the metatarsals, and it's like you're pressing through front snap kick or a demi point and smearing pain out that you can no longer reach out, so you end up translating wide. And then when you come back in and merge, there's a transition between that and the translation of movement coming back in. And I think the more you articulate that expression or that translation, the more obvious it is, because the control evident in it, the greater degree of control. So in all the ways that you can control your movement doing Pilates, this is just a small subject about in your translation of coordination and the way your legs move. There's so much to be had in that little bit of time and space when you reach a limit of going out and open up, translating, or coming back and then reach out and merging into a translation back. So another place where this word comes into existence for me is in the swan. And most notably, or most classically maybe, whether it's the swan on the reformer, or the swan on the ladder barrel, or the swan on spine corrector, or half barrel, or the swan on the, what else were they going to say? The reformer. In the swan on the ladder barrel, as an example of all the others, you're facing prone to the barrel, you're in a Pilates V on the back bar. As a position of the distance, there you go, as a position of the distance between the ladder and the barrel, I ideally reach for the ability to press into a demi point, metatarsals against the bar in a Pilates V, to where that pressure into demi point allows me to have contact of my thighs somewhere against the barrel, so that I can be vertical. And I know that before I get into where I want to go in the expression, right? A lot of times that spacing doesn't happen because it's too much trouble to go through for the degree of engagement that you have for the student involved. But if you're talking ideally or just doing it for you, when I adjust the ladder barrel, it's so that I can be vertical through my femurs and the rest of my body. So how many points is that? Knees, 1, 2, 3, 4 points on a line, right? Yeah, 4 points on a line. Knees, hips, shoulders, and ears vertical. And that comes from a pressure out into demi point, or front snap kick, or just plantar flexion. Thanks. Took me a while to go there, but all of this to get to the translation. And so you inhale, come up, your arms open out, and you release some of your extension in order to then inhale, reaching back. Maybe it's exhale, reaching back, because the timing that I'm talking about is that the target for the expression, not necessarily done all the time, but the target for the expression is to come out into a straight line and be reaching as long as your legs do in coordination. And it's at the peak of that length where you can't go any longer in the reach out on the swan, on the ladder barrel, that the lift translates the direction. Because you're going one direction and it translates into another direction. Right? And those are just small snippets in a huge choreography of Pilates, but they're very distinctive in their nature, and because of the similarities, at least between what I see in the leg movement of coordination and in the trunk movement of the swan, that the line you're reaching for translates to extension before you come back and either hold the line or just move all the way back down. The pinnacle of the effort in terms of the loading of it, the weight bearing of it, is when you're out in a line and you're long, that's as heavy as you're going to be in space, and then being able to come up out of that into extension is a real expression of control. Because it's not like you go out and you fall down or just release the gravity, but you reach out and lift up away from gravity. And you saw me inhale, right? And I've spoken before about the timing of the breath. And the inhale takes you out into loading because it supports the load. And my timing is that right before I reach the pinnacle of my inhale, when it's at its strength, is when the translation happens into extension. Don't finish your inhale and then have to lift into extension and dead weight. Maintain the dynamic of your inhale out into a longness of reach that you have, and then enough inhale left, or the timing of the inhale, to support you the most when you need to lift the load. Okay? And so it's in articulation of those two translations that you express the degree of control that you're making. Or it's an expression of the level of control you have and how you make those translations. And the more fluid it becomes, the more it becomes all this length, and then right at the end, these little round edges that take you in a different direction, whether it's sideways in coordination or up and down in the swan. So life can't live forever. If you're not reading between the lines, I encourage you to start and see behind the curtain, and everybody projects or creates their own curtain in the sense that they make a simulation of what they consider reality to be, and consciousness is the extent to which we place ourselves in that simulation, projecting a future, right? At least how I look at it. And see all that, and I lose. And oh, I was talking about seeing behind the curtain, and one of the curtains to see behind is the one that you create yourself, right? I mean, so our perception of our simulation that we run of what we think it's like out there in reality is the curtain, if you will, that we make for the stage that we participate in our lives. Add 2 and 2, and know what you know. Meaning, once you know what you know, don't be afraid to distinguish yourself by how much you're willing to ask for as compensation for access to what you know, to instruct. Okay? You won't ever be paid $1,000 for a session until you ask for it. And the irony is, or the paradox is, that the people that can afford that and appreciate your work are happy to share some of their egress with you. And if they're not, then they really don't have a correct assessment of the value, right? So don't be afraid to ask for more, and don't be in a hurry to give a discount, because a lot of times people that buy things want to go beyond just because they want it, but they want to go to the point where they want to support you. So have an opportunity to buy 100 lessons for a discount where it's where it's a $10,000 prepaid package. Won't know until you ask. So add 2 and 2, and you can't add 2 and 2 unless you do the add part. And then direct your thinking, right? Geist.